Okay, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at one of the most fascinating and honestly kind of frustrating political puzzles out there, the democratic paradox. We're going to explore the global hurdles facing democracy right now, and more importantly, how we can actually go about fixing them.
Seriously, think about the grand irony here. Over the last century or so, democracy has essentially conquered the globe. It doesn't really have any serious, widespread ideological rival left. But if it's the undisputed champ, why is it struggling everywhere? We see dissatisfaction, protests, and systemic failures all over the map. It doesn't have a challenger, right, but it absolutely faces massive challenges.
So we need to ask, what does the word challenge actually mean in this context? We aren't just talking about some random dead end. A challenge is a difficulty that literally carries an opportunity for progress baked right into it. Think of it like a hurdle on a track. It's an obstacle, sure, but once you clear it, you're actually further along. You've reached a higher, more evolved level of progress.
Now, to help process all the chaotic political events happening globally without getting totally overwhelmed, we can categorize every single democratic struggle into three neat little buckets. Step 1 is the foundational challenge. Step 2 is the challenge of expansion. And Step 3 is the challenge of deepening. Just having this basic mental map lets you instantly diagnose a country's growing pains.
All right, first up is the foundational challenge. Now, it's really easy for some of us to forget, but a whole fourth of the globe still isn't under democratic rule, not even close. So for these countries, the hurdle is incredibly stark. It's literally just making the transition to democracy in the first place. It means bringing down non-democratic regimes, keeping the military out of the government, and establishing a functioning sovereign state. This is ground zero.
Okay, so say a country gets past that hurdle. Then they hit the challenge of expansion. This means actually taking the basic principles of democratic government and applying them everywhere, across all regions, all social groups, all institutions. And yes, established democracies like India and the US face this one constantly. It involves empowering local governments and ensuring genuine, real-world inclusion for women and minority groups.
And then we get to the challenge of deepening. Now, this is a hurdle faced by literally every single democracy in the world. Nobody is immune to this. It's all about strengthening institutions so that ordinary people can actually realize their expectations. It means actively working to bring down the disproportionate influence of the rich and powerful. Ultimately, it's about making sure the government works for the many, not just the wealthy few.
Which brings us to a super common frustration. I mean, be honest for a second. Do you ever catch yourself thinking, our problems would just vanish if we simply got rid of our politicians? It is so tempting to think that way. When we see corruption or communal violence, we just want to sweep the current leaders away. But if we simply replace the people without actually reforming the underlying system, the new guys are probably going to do the exact same things.
I love to think of it through this cricket analogy. Passing new laws is a lot like changing the rules of cricket, like, adjusting how LBW decisions are made. Sure, it might reduce negative tactics, but changing the rules alone doesn't automatically create a world-class match. The actual quality of the game, that relies entirely on the players and the coaches. And in our democracy, those players are the political activists, the parties, and most importantly, you, the citizens.
This is exactly why the most effective laws don't just ban bad behavior. Politicians are clever. They will always find loopholes. The truly successful laws actually empower citizens to act. Look at the Right to Information Act. Instead of just passing a blanket, hey, don't be corrupt law, it handed everyday people the power to uncover what's actually happening inside the government. It literally turns citizens into active watchdogs, a total game changer.
Section 2. Real-world democratic hurdles. Let's ground this theory in reality.
Okay, let's look at a specific case study. Imagine you're in a rural village in Uttar Pradesh. A government survey uncovered a massive challenge. A lot of doctors posted to rural clinics just aren't showing up. They're living in towns, running private practices, and forcing poor villagers to travel and pay ridiculously high fees. So how do we reform this? Well, you could mandate village residency. You could do surprise police raids. Or, and here's the empowering part, you let the local village panchayat write the doctor's annual report. Those are three totally different approaches to deepening a democracy.
Now, brace yourself for this number, 1 crore rupees. To put that into perspective, on average, every single candidate who contested the last Lok Sabha elections owned property worth more than this amount. No way around it, this brings us face to face with a massive systemic challenge regarding money and power.
And that leads us straight into the challenge of political funding. See, when wealthy individuals and corporate-backed candidates absolutely dominate elections, poor people end up losing their democratic voice. It just gets drowned out. So what are some concrete reform proposals here? Well, we could mandate totally public, government-audited financial accounts, we could introduce state funding for elections, or we could encourage tax-exempt donations from everyday citizens to help dilute that corporate power.
Section 3, Redefining Democracy, moving from a minimalist definition to a good one.
This is absolutely crucial. Understanding the difference between a minimalist democracy and a good democracy. The minimalist definition is basically just a government where rulers are elected by the people. And hey, that is a great starting point. But a truly good democracy, it goes way further. It demands broad social and economic rights. It requires genuine power sharing, a profound respect for minority voices, and the active elimination of discrimination in all spheres of life.
Which brings us to a direct challenge for you. After everything we've looked at today, from those intense foundational struggles to the outsized influence of wealth, how do you define it? What is your 50-word definition of a good democracy? Because the ultimate takeaway here is that a good democracy is exactly what its citizens believe it is, and what they're willing to build together. Think about that. Thanks so much for hanging out with us for today's Explainer.